A new female alternate version of a major villain has recently been introduced, which means it's time to talk about all our favorites from over the years. But we will kick things off with the new addition debuting in Batman Caped Crusader is Oswalda Cobblepot, the Penguin. This is definitely a turn of events since the Penguin is almost always depicted as a man. So of course, people had questions. The show's creators shared in an interview with the Emmys that they decided to do the gender swap for a few reasons. One was they were feeling a little stuck when it came to the Penguin and not really knowing what to do with the character in the show. That, combined with wanting to introduce more female villains, led to the idea of a gender swap. Apparently, after that hit the drawing board, the ideas just started flowing. Minnie Driver, who voices Oswalda, shared her excitement at the new version of the character, especially the fact that she is a mother and a psychopathic criminal at the same time. Some people aren't as happy with the change, but for the most part, people seem to be more upset that they decided to go with a name like Oswalda for the character instead of something like Odessa or related. Misery was created using Carnage and Anti-Venom, and that means she has a very, very powerful healing factor, considering the two are always trying to destroy each other. She was created by Alchemex because they wanted to weaponize the strains from the Sims they had captured. Of course, there was a scuffle that resulted in the Misery sample bonding with Liz Allen, a scientist working on the project. It made her look awesome. No way around that. Scary, but awesome. Misery is red and white and has sharp limbs coming out of her back. Her healing factor is so powerful, she is easily able to fuse herself back together after being literally cut in half. Adeline Stern is Scarecrow for Batman Beyond, that is. Stern is from Neo Gotham, which is Gotham City but set in the not too distant future. So Bruce Wayne is alive, but he's old, and Terry McGinnis has taken over the Batman mantle. Which also means a lot of the classic Batman villains are taken over by other people. And in this case, Adeline Stern is the Scarecrow. Jonathan Crane actually kind of created her. When she was a kid, she watched her dad lose a fight to Batman, Bruce, and it was traumatizing. She received treatment, it just happened to be from one of Crane's disciples, so she actually ended up even more traumatized and hating Batman. This carried through her adult life. She viewed Batman as a demon that needed to be eradicated. Important to note, 1, Adeline's not unhinged in her day-to-day life, she's actually a news anchor. And 2, future Gotham is covered in technology. AI home systems, massive screens everywhere, it's almost impossible to not be close to some form of technology. The OG Scarecrow used fear gas, but Adeline puts a modern spin on that and instead hacks all the tech in the city, even the systems in people's houses, and has them send subliminal messages that Batman is evil. And since everyone in Gotham is surrounded by tech, it causes all of them to attack Batman at once. It's not until Bruce Wayne can jam the signal that Terry even stands a chance at winning. Adeline was very clever for using fear signals because it affected literally everyone: Gordon, Terry's brother, even Bruce Wayne. People that have intimate knowledge on how to beat Batman. At the end of the day, Adeline was a traumatized person coping in an unhealthy way and was sent to Arkham Asylum. Marvel fans had their own version of the Penguin situation back in 2018 with the shocking reveal that Doc Ock was a woman in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And honestly, it was awesome. Olivia Octavius is just as cool and ruthless and intelligent as the male version of herself. This change was welcomed by Spider-Man fans considering it was just so well done. The decision to change Otto to Olivia stemmed from real life. Co-director of the film, Rodney Rothman, shared on Twitter that co-director Bob Persichetti is friends with Kathryn Hahn, Olivia's voice actress, in real life because of their kids. And it seems that the kids had a big effect on the movie as a whole. Rothman also shared that his son was so upset Peter B didn't get to eat the bagel that he made his dad storyboard the scene for him. And sadly, it did not make it into the movie. Lady Bullseye was inspired into her life of crime by Bullseye himself. As a girl, Lady Bullseye was imprisoned and headed for bad things, but luckily Bullseye came in to save the day, slaying her captors, and in the process, inspiring her to escape and learn to become a weapon herself. As a note though, Bullseye wasn't actually there to save anyone, he was on an errand. This was a surprise side effect. Despite having no superpowers, Lady Bullseye is still a force to be reckoned with, a master of many different martial arts and skilled in weaponry. She found herself in New York while working for The Hand and framed Daredevil for a pretty serious crime. She also attacked Kingpin, taking out his family. She eventually joined the Masters of Evil West Coast and Baron Zemo's Army of Evil, so she's really building her brand here. Back in 2022, she pledged allegiance to the Punisher after he became leader of The Hand and took someone out with the power of the Beast. And according to Marvel Encyclopedia New Edition, Lady Bullseye is faster than Bullseye. Red Skull had a kid, and she took after her father. Her name is Cynthia Schmidt. Her villain name is Sin, obviously. Her dad is messed up. That is not news. He proved he is a horrible dad, though. He accelerated his daughter's growth and gave her superpowers after she spent her childhood being raised by one of his followers and indoctrinated with his ideals. He also never wanted her, so that's fun. Sin became the leader of the criminal group Sisters of Sin. They were often depicted fighting against Captain America. She was responsible for his passing in Captain America Volume 5. She also held Black Widow and Sam Wilson hostage once. Sin was recently defeated in Avengers Assemble Volume 3 Issue 1 as she literally disintegrated. She was adamant that hate would live on. All in all, the rotten apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Martha Wayne's Joker. And that's it. That's the whole sentence. In the alternate timeline known as Flashpoint, Batman's mom became the Joker and Batman's dad, Thomas, became the Caped Crusader. And that happened because the guy who ended the life of them in the main timeline ended Bruce's life in the Flashpoint timeline. Turns out Bruce's parents take his passing about as well as he took theirs, if not worse. Martha Wayne was obviously super depressed for months after the incident, and therapy wasn't working really well. And then her husband encouraged her to please move on because it had been months and he missed her smile. Maybe not the perfect thing to say to her in her state, because when Thomas was out, she gave herself a Glasgow smile so she would always be smiling, and boom, new Joker. Overall, the concept of Batman's mom being Joker is really interesting, and it makes sense now why the Batman is so reluctant to take the Joker out, even after all the terrible things they do. That has always been a point of confusion for people. The Joker is deranged and evil, so why can't Batman take him out for good? If the Joker is or was the love of his life for real, there's stakes there. Martha's Joker was equally as deranged as the Joker we are used to seeing. Kidnapping people, she attacked Batman's sidekick, ended Gordon, and eventually finds her end falling into an underground cave. Now this might be a shock, but I like Disney princesses. I know, you could probably never tell from looking at me, but all my dreams came true in Edge of Spider-Verse Volume 2 Issue 4 when they took Spider-Man characters and inserted them into a Disney fairy tale. Obviously, everybody slayed, but I really loved Fairy Godmother, aka the female fairy tale Green Goblin that has popped in to help Princess Petra get to the ball. Godmother's name is Norma, and she really only helped the princess because the goblin's crystal orb was stolen by the queen, and she wanted Petra to get it back from her mom. She gave the princess powers and also a beautiful dress that I am foaming at the mouth for, and set her on her way. 10 out of 10 story, absolutely no notes. Also featured a female version of Mysterio. It was the queen, the mysterious empress. Magneto hails from Earth 982, the one where everything pretty much happened 15 years before it did on Earth 616. Magneto is and isn't Magneto. She has the same powers as him, powers of magnetism, but she is his predecessor. Her Earth had a Magneto, but now he's out of the picture. She believed in the core of Magneto's ideas, but that his arrogance often threw everything off, so she was going to be the one with the power, charisma, and the ability to actually reach the top. She pulled together her own sisterhood of mutants and considered herself the most powerful of the new generation of heroes. Galacta has one of the oddest origins, and that is saying something when it comes to comic books. She is technically Galactus's daughter on Earth 610102, kind of. So she was a parasite, kind of like a tapeworm that manifested in Galactus, eventually growing up to be separate from him, but still a powerful cosmic being. She is like a less evil version of him since she doesn't eat planets, instead opting for consuming the non-native organisms that sneak their way onto Earth, thus protecting us from the problems that stem from invasive species, so thank you for that. She makes herself appear as a regular human teen and has helped out the Fantastic Four in the past. She eventually started growing her own parasite that made her hunger start to control her, but she proved she still wanted to be good, desperately searching for a cure, and instead finding out how she came into the world along the way.
If you've seen the Marvel Studios What If show or the Multiverse of Madness movie, you know alternate versions of Peggy Carter get the super soldier serum in place of Steve Rogers. Fans love this idea, even if it's strange for a British agent to become Captain America. There are a few different versions of Captain Carter to choose from, but they all generally share the same abilities. There was a version of the character appearing in Exiles #3 in 2018 who had a great costume. The one in the Disney Plus show joined the Guardians of the Multiverse, so she was clearly an an exceptional version of the character. She has shown up in the cinematic universe sporting a jetpack and was able to give the Scarlet Witch a surprising run for her money, while other more powerful characters were felled pretty much instantly. She can be a bit more hot-headed than her Steve Rogers counterpart, but she has the power of fan love, and if you know anything about what that power can do, you know that Peggy Carter as Captain America is powerful. Also, definitely check out her series if you get the chance. That takes place on Earth 76. But from one alternate Captain America to another, on Earth 15061, Danielle Cage, the daughter of both Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, would eventually become the Captain America of her time. But this girl has much more going for her than Peggy does. Even though we all love you, Peggy, I'm sorry. Because let's be honest and think about this for a second. Thanks to her parentage, Danielle Cage has the subsonic flight and superhuman longevity of her mother, with the bulletproof skin of her father, plus the superhuman strength, durability, stamina, speed, and healing factor of both of them. Yeah, Danielle Cage doesn't just use the shield of Captain America, she is the shield, as she likes to say. She is an awesome Captain America. She arguably does not even need her shield, which is a controllable drone replica of the original one. Unfortunately, we don't really get to see much of this version of Danielle Cage, but we know Danielle is a force to be reckoned with, and as such, she is a Captain America who deserves to be on this list. Moving on though, Spider-Gwen, or Ghost Spider, is the Gwen Stacy from the alternate reality of Earth 65. In this reality, it is Gwen Stacy, not Peter Parker, who gets bitten by a genetically engineered super spider. This bite granted her superhuman strength, speed, toughened flesh, and pretty much all the spider-based powers that the regular Spider-Man would possess. But after she is depowered by Cindy Moon, Ghost Spider bonded with the Venom symbiote, becoming Gwenom, which after she learned how to control it gave her all the regular symbiote powers, plus obviously some even more awesome Venom powers. She is another fan favorite alternate spider hero, and as such has featured in tons of stories. But if you're looking for something to read where Ghost Spider is featured, I suggest Edge of Spider-Verse, where she first appeared, and her own self-titled comic series Spider-Gwen Volume 1 from 2015. Next up is Wanda Wilson. Wanda Wilson is the Deadpool of Earth 3010, but since she is one of a very few female Deadpools, she naturally is titled Ladypool. Now Ladypool joined the side of a group of rebels fighting against loyalists in the United States in her own universe, that were led by Ladypool's nemesis, General America. Now according to Wanda, the fight started when fascists in the federal government started to impose their will on the people. As a result, a schism in Congress occurred, generals took sides, and states declared independence, which led to the current predicament. I never thought this video would get political. Eventually, she is assisted by 616 Deadpool, and she ends up becoming a main part of the good Deadpool Corps, and eventually she becomes the leader of the group, sacrificing herself and the Corps ship in a fight against the evil Deadpool Corps and Galactus Pool. But stepping back into the Earth 616 reality for a sec, and looking at the time that Peter Quill stepped away from his role of Star-Lord to become Emperor of the Spartax Empire, the empire of his father and the reason for him being near immortal and superhuman and all that jazz. When he did that, Kitty Pryde, who if you don't know had a bit of a thing with Peter at the time and was hanging with the Guardians of the Galaxy, took over the role of Star-Lord in his place. Her mutant powers and her insane level of capability obviously put her a cut above a half Spartax, and instantly made her one of the most powerful versions of Star-Lord ever. That's not to mention her intelligence and skill as an engineer, plus her mutant buddies also helped her to become uniquely gifted. Kitty Pryde is a pretty powerful mutant in Marvel Comics, but while with the Guardians of the Galaxy, she even became cosmically powerful thanks to the Black Vortex. Kitty Pryde is an awesome character who has honestly become scary capable with the Fall of X storyline. I really hope we get to see her in the MCU soon, and who knows, maybe they will touch on this little relationship too, maybe, I don't know. Now thankfully, Jane Foster as Thor has happened in the true 616 continuity, and it was really awesome. But for this point, we're gonna talk about What If number 10, and it's quite a bit different. In this timeline, it is Jane Foster who picks up the Hammer of Mjolnir for the first time, not Donald Blake. In this story, Jane accompanies Dr. Blake on his trip to Norway, and when he drops his cane into a ravine, like he normally does, she goes down there to get it for him instead. Striking the stick just like Donald Blake did, she becomes Thordis. Wielding the power of Thor, Thordis fights off the Saturn rock people and then turns the cane that she seems to have stolen stolen from Donald Blake into a hairbrush to better fit in with her feminine alter ego, because I guess men don't use hairbrushes. She has pretty much the same adventures as Thor, but crucially, she is rejected by Odin for not being a man. This tracks all the way until the events of Ragnarok, when Odin decides to give the hammer back to Donald Blake because he just can't accept Jane as Thor. But then, as thanks for her time as the hero, Odin turns Jane into a different god and then marries her. Odin has always been kind of weird like that, so we're not surprised, but still a little strange. Next up is Earth 999, a world where basically every single person has powers, things have gone apocalyptic, and where the daughter of Peter Parker, May Parker, is Venom. While her retired and cynical pops ain't too thrilled about that, she does actually have complete control over her symbiote thanks to her advanced and honed spider sense. She was eventually under the control of this kid who went by the name of the Red Skull, and thanks to her father and other Earth X classic heroes, she was saved, with Venom and her father, Spider-Man, going on to join the superpowered police force and fight crime and supervillain threats together. She eventually, after the passing of Death, was recruited by Kang the Conqueror as part of a multiversal team to fight the Apocalypse Twins. In addition to her proportional spider powers, plus the enhanced spider sense, she gains all the usual symbiote powers, plus a few extra, like what seems to be a rudimentary form of telepathy, and she kind of has a huge amount of potential to become even more powerful if Marvel decides to. She's definitely one of the cooler incarnations of Venom, as are most characters in the Earth X world. But moving on from that one, the Legion of Night comes from a world where Mr. Sinister corrupted the genomes of those who underwent the mutant resurrection protocols on Krakoa in the new Krakoan age. Because of that, Sinister's control over humanity and mutantdom became pretty much supreme. Now, one of his experiments was combining the genetics of different mutants to create powerful chimeras to serve him, and it made for some pretty crazy awesome comic book moments. A particularly special project was turning the genes of Nightcrawler into a band of teleporting assassins. But this Legion of Night, while having leadership in the form of Sinister's female clone, Mother Righteous, also had field leaders. But one of them was Mr. Sinister's favorite Nightcrawler chimera, Wagnerine. Mixing the DNA of both Nightcrawler and Wolverine, Wagnerine was funnily enough more of a mix of Laura Kinney, X-23, and Nightcrawler, and she made for an excellent assassin and leader for Mother Righteous once she had been freed from the control of Mr. Sinister. Wagnerine ended up beating the odds and procreating with the Cyclops Nightcrawler, aka Summer Night, to create a golden mutant teleporter who seemingly teleported to a random location immediately after her birth, causing Summer Night to lose control of himself and fall victim to the influence of Sinister once again. Eventually, it was revealed that Mother Righteous had actually taken the child, and when that was revealed to Wagnerine, she defected. Now, fast forward 900 years later, and she was finally able to bring down Mother Righteous and go on to try and live a happy life with her baby. Moving on, in the alternate Earth M reality, the Silver Surfer finds Earth for Galactus to consume like he normally does, but he quickly decides to protect the planet from his master once he sees how many people live here, and he attacks Galactus instead. In return, Galactus quickly overpowers him, grows frustrated in the Surfer's resistance to him, and banishes him to Earth. Galactus decides that he wants to convince the Silver Surfer to return to him, so he is convinced to create a female being named Ardina from his technological matrix with the DNA of Surfer's old flame, Shalabal. Her role was to attract the Surfer and convince him that the people of Earth are not worth saving. However, they both fall in love with each other, and Ardina vows to be by the Surfer's side in his fight against Galactus. Seeing that his plan has failed, Galactus reabsorbs her back into the Galactus Matrix and erases her from existence, instead offering to spare Earth if the Surfer decides to come back to be his herald. Now, in the main 616 continuity, Ardina was created as basically a clone of Surfer himself, using a ritually prepared dagger to do so. In both cases though, Ardina has access to the exact same energies as the Silver Surfer. She could use the power cosmic, and even though she was technically a newborn, she had the potential to be just as powerful as the Surfer himself. And last up today, it's Shuri the Black Panther. The sister of King T'Challa of Wakanda, Shuri has for a long time wanted to be the first female Black Panther. After her brother helped train her to be able to do just that, and following her brother becoming incapacitated thanks to the inheritor Morlun, she got that wish. And the best part is that it happened in the main 616 continuity. Shuri became Queen of Wakanda and the next Black Panther, and her brother even refused to fully take the title back at first upon his recovery. During her rule as Black Panther, she would constantly come into conflict with splinter groups of Wakandans and with Namor and his Kingdom of Atlantis, but it turns out that almost everything was influenced by Dr. Doom, because of course it was. Eventually, her brother would come back to help her out against Doom and take over again as king, giving Shuri the opportunity to train under other heroes like Wolverine, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and Khazar. After the Phoenix Five showed up, she helped heroes come to Wakanda for safety before it was attacked by the Phoenix-powered Namor, and then a bit later during the incursions, her and her brother would launch attacks on Atlantis, all while T'Challa and Namor were working together in the Illuminati. A fact that would lead her to oust her brother to take the throne and Black Panther title yet again. But then the multiverse went completely belly up and all that didn't matter anymore.
Number 10. Lady Spider. Lady Spider is an alternate version of Spider-Man who hails from the Earth of 803. She was first introduced in Spider-Verse issue number 1 from 2014. Earth 803 is similar to our own history's turn of the century or Victorian period. Here, May Riley, aka Lady Spider, was the daughter of an accomplished inventor with a passion for various animals and insects. After her father's death, May decided to become a hero and created for herself a mechanical suit and web shooters, taking up the mantle of Lady Spider. She does not have any powers but is considered to be a spider totem and is able to fight against villains on her Earth using her suit and her equipment. I also just love her overall look, it's so cool. Number 9. Spider Bite. Spider Bite comes to us from A Vault of Spiders issue number 1 from 2018. Her real name is Margot and she takes up the hero persona of Spider Bite in secret while immersed in cyberspace, a virtual reality world that humans, I assume in the future, frequent on a regular basis. It's like the internet, but if you could walk around in it and actually, like tap into it, experiencing it with a virtual avatar that is meant to represent you as opposed to just surfing it on your computer. It kind of reminds me of that episode of Adventure Time where they find that island full of people who are basically fed through tubes and plugged into a virtual reality Matrix-like world where they live out their day-to-day through virtual avatars that they can customize. I don't know if you've seen that episode, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty trippy. We haven't seen much of Spider-Bite yet in the comics, with her only appearing in 2 issues, but I really do hope we get to see more of her and her alternate futuristic world of Earth 22191. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list as much as I am loving giving it to you, please be sure to show us that love by giving this video a thumbs up. We also have a really awesome Spider-Man playlist, so if you have a hankering for Spider-Mans or Spider-Ladies, be sure to check that out. Spider-Folks, Spider Totems. Number 8. Spider-Girl. Anya Corazon got her powers through a spider tattoo after she was considered a powerful potential candidate for the Spider Society by one of their sorcerers, Miguel. The Spider Society is a secret society that has existed since 1099 AD. They worship and often seek to protect spider totems, those who are fated to become superpowered spider-like beings. That's what a spider totem is. Ezekiel Sims also belongs to the Spider Society, for example. Miguel believed that Anya had what it took to become one of their hunters, warriors who fought against the Sisterhood of the Wasp. Anya ended up getting caught in the midst of a fight looking to protect a stranger who happened to be the sorcerer Miguel. To save her life and seeing her potential, he transferred some of his power to her, giving her that spider tattoo as well as spider-like powers along with it. Number 7. SP//DR, or as I like to say, Spider. Spider, aka Penny Parker. You might recognize Penny from the first Into the Spider-Verse film. She was introduced there as a young girl who inherited her father's spider-like mech suit, SP//DR, Spider, after he died. As the suit was made based on her father's genetics, it was believed that Penny was the only one to carry on his work with the mech. She allowed the radioactive spider connected to the suit's CPU to bite her so that she could bond with and control the suit alongside it. Penny was created by Gerard Way and Jake Wilder Wyatt, and made her first appearance in 2014 in Edge of the Spider-Verse issue number 5, before showing up in the film 4 years later in 2018. Number 6. Spider-Man. Spider-Man has to be one of my favorite all-time alternate characters in the history of Marvel. I just love that she became a full-fledged hero in her own right, and that she helped to defeat the Inheritors the second time around while also deciding to raise all of the then-made baby versions of them. If anyone could make sure they grow up to be good and kind instead of murderous spider totem devouring villains, it's Aunt May. Spider-Man hails from Earth 3123 and comes from What If issue number 23 originally, where we asked the question what would happen if Aunt May had been bitten by a radioactive spider in the place of her nephew Peter Parker. And to be clear, that is What If issue 23 from the 1977 series. Not 89, if you're looking for it. Number 5. Venom. Not that Venom from Earth 616, this Venom from Earth X, aka Earth 9997. This version of Venom and alternate Spider-Person is May Parker, the daughter of Mary Jane Watson Parker and Peter Parker. There is much we do not know about May's origins, but we do know that in her youth she was trained likely by the hero Daredevil, aka her uncle Matt, in the use of her spider sense in combat. Her relationship with her father was made more complicated when Venom left its aged host, Eddie Brock, and sought out May to try and use her as a weapon of revenge against Peter Parker, still holding a grudge against Spider-Man for rejecting the symbiote years ago. Venom was like, I remember all these grudges, I don't let them go. Fortunately, May's willpower was so strong that she was able to bend the symbiote to her will, allowing her to take control of it and use it for her own heroic means, instead of it corrupting her. Number 4. Madam Web. Julia Carpenter has been known by a few different spider-centric names over the years when it comes to her heroics. Initially we knew her as Spider-Woman, but she would later take up the mantle of Arachne before becoming Madam Web, and receiving the precognitive and telepathic abilities of Cassandra Webb as she passed away. Julia Carpenter originally got her spider-like abilities when she was unknowingly experimented on. She had volunteered to be part of what she thought was a medical athletic-based study. However, in reality, the government was really experimenting on her to try and create their own superhero. Julia Carpenter also has a daughter named Rachel, though we haven't really seen her for a while in the comics. I hope she's doing okay. Number 3. Spider-Woman. Thank goodness not everyone on this list is known as Spider-Woman, because that would make it really confusing. Though this hero is someone that you would probably still associate with the name Spider-Girl, as it was a mantle she had for many years in the comics. However, May Parker, the daughter of Mary Jane Watson Parker and Peter Parker from Earth 982, is all grown up now, hence her taking on the mantle of Spider-Woman instead. May, nicknamed Mayday Parker, is the first child of MJ and Peter, but also has a clone, named April Parker, who joined the family as a stand-in cousin, and May also has a younger brother known as Ben. I always wondered if Peter just comes up with all the names for their kids, or what's going on there. I have to assume though that MJ must just really be on board with naming her kids after Peter's aunt and uncle, as in almost all alternate realities, that's what ends up happening. I don't even know, does MJ just not want to name people after her family? I guess her family history is pretty weird and dramatic, so maybe that's why. She has mixed feelings about her family members. Number 2. Ghost Spider. While Gwen Stacy might be dead and gone in the reality of Earth 616, on the reality of Earth 65, she was the one who received spider-like abilities, while her good friend Peter Parker was the one to die, becoming the reluctant villain known as the Lizard before being killed. Peter had looked up to Spider-Woman as she was originally known when she first came on the scene. He wanted to be a hero like her, but instead ended up as a monstrous creature, oh no, becoming the Lizard after experimenting on himself. Gwen of Earth 65 has been known as Spider-Woman, Venom, Spider-Gwen, and more recently took up the mantle of Ghost Spider in the comics. Number 1. Spider-Woman. One of my all-time favorite spider heroes. And also yes, the second Spider-Woman on this list, but hey, a lot of people go under the mantle Spider-Woman, as I said. Jessica Drew has a super weird and kind of complicated story when it comes to her origins, especially as time has gone on and we've learned more about it. But I don't know if we consider it weirder than her original origins, which was that she was a woman who used to be a spider. That's a pretty weird story. I am gonna say it's almost at that level though, with there being secret plots seemingly behind all of what went on with her birth and her childhood, and her being experimented on as a child. However, when her origins was shifted initially to her being a sick child who was saved with a serum based off of spider DNA, it was a lot less twisty and bizarre. It was actually almost kinda nice. Ugh, I don't know though, it's pretty weird, still pretty weird. All of her origins are weird. Especially as she did still spend pretty much all of her childhood inside a stasis tube, in essence skipping all of those developmental stages and then emerging as a fully grown, naive, and superpowered adult later on in her life. Fully cured, but now having spider-like powers. Basically like a child who just fast forwarded to an adult, but then you didn't actually get to experience a childhood, so what would that be like? I feel like you'd be kinda messed up from that. Jessica has been a member of the Avengers, a pal of Wolverine's, and has fought alongside her fellow Spider alternates from the Spider-Verse. All around, she's just a cool lady. And now it is time for an honorable mention! Someone who wasn't on this list, but in a weird way is also a female Spider-Man alternate, is everyone's favorite actress, redhead, and Spider-Man confidant, Mary Jane Watson. Mary Jane is not a permanent Spider hero in the reality of Earth 616, but she has fought by Peter's side before in his Iron Spider suit, and on the Earth of 18119 as the Spider-themed hero, Spinneret. There she fights alongside her family full time pretty much, including her husband Peter Parker aka Spider-Man and their daughter Annie Parker aka Spider-Ling. I'm a sucker for a good family of heroes.